Hi, everyone. I'm Bhavna. I'm CEO and lead designer of Bhav, which is a women's wear contemporary line located in Chicago, Illinois, in the US. We are a women's wear brand, which kind of incorporates South Asian heritage textiles into the design aesthetic. A lot of the pieces are very versatile and can be dressed up or down, really depending on your style. And when I say incorporating South Asian heritage textiles, it's a lot of the fabrics that sort of incorporate a lot of the beautiful craftsmanship that sort of represents India. Some of our fabrics that we've used in the past are ikat cotton fabrics, some silk blends, and we try to use different colors and prints that represent the South Asian heritage, and we fuse them into a more contemporary and chic sort of way. So they're Western silhouettes, but we're incorporating those South Asian textiles into the design aesthetic. So we're not making Indian occasion wear per se, but we are still, making again, a lot of Western wear that is very approachable to all women here in the US. I'm actually a clinical pharmacist by profession. I've been practicing for almost 15 years, and I've always had an interest in art and design as I was growing up. But I have a big influence of healthcare in my family, specifically my father, who's a physician. And naturally, I wanted to follow in his footsteps. And so, growing up, it was kind of a struggle because, again, I loved art and design, but I also, wanted to pursue something in the healthcare field. So long story short, I continued on the healthcare track and started my pharmacy career. And it wasn't a few years into my pharmacy career that I really started to, you know, life sort of became a little bit monotonous for me, and I was looking for that creative outlet that I've always enjoyed in life. And that's when I decided to enroll in a design program here in Chicago. And I kind of started off, exploring the field a little bit, and it was just kind of a hobby. But I was working full time in pharmacy, so I would do my full time job, and then in the evening I would go to my fashion design classes. And as time went on, I really enjoyed, the fashion classes. And it was at that point that I decided that I really wanted to pursue this other career. And once I had decided that I was going to do that, I started putting the pieces together for my business. And I eventually launched my first line in March of 2018. Um, I don't know if I really had an inspiration, of entrepreneurship or someone, to kind of look up to. I mean, we kind of all know a lot of the big entrepreneurs in the world, the big tech giants, other people who've sort of made it in their respective industries. But I personally, did not have anybody to sort of look up to for entrepreneurship. There's really nobody in my family that has kind of taken that path. As I said, we're a very healthcare oriented family, or I have a few family members who are in business. And so it was a very sort of foreign area for me. And I think I grew up in a family where, I was kind of told you kind of choose one thing in life and you kind of stick with it. So the idea of, possibly switching into a different career or even entrepreneurship for that matter, really wasn't on my radar for quite some time. And I think there was just a fear that I had in terms of, switching careers and thinking, what was my family going to think? Or had I just thrown away my whole, pharmacy career away? Or, so that was kind of hard. But I think entrepreneurship just, came to me. And I think I had a creative idea. I had a dream that I wanted to, create this business. And I think I just kind of, went with it. And, I think it just happened really. And next thing you know, like when you're looking back and you're like, okay, I'm going to start a business now, that's a form of entrepreneurship, and you're kind of, going into an area that, is very unfamiliar, especially for me in the fashion industry. I come from a very, a science background. So that's really all I knew. Um, so yeah, I think I had to really kind of learn the ins and outs of entrepreneurship. And, again, it's a constant learning process. I'm still learning. But just in terms of how to create a business and how to network, how to brand your business, how to sell your business. But you learn from other, entrepreneurs. And I think that's when, listening to different podcasts or just, watching, reading books about other entrepreneurs. I think that's when that starts to kick in, and learning from their mistakes and, from their failures and their success, and incorporating that into my own life as an entrepreneur now. Well, I think I have really brushed up on a lot of skills over the time period. I've always been a really good sort of organizer in life in general. I like to plan a lot of things. Um, and, I thought I'd be cut out, for that entrepreneurship role in terms of organization and being on top of tasks and everything. One thing that I think I've become better at is definitely time management. You know, juggling two careers is a lot as well. So that's helped with the time management perspective. Sometimes if I have interns that are, working for, under me, I have to manage them. And, this past year has been a little bit busy in terms of my pharmacy job and, picking up some extra hours, and personal life things. I think, you have to kind of balance everything, and, time doesn't stop. And it's a juggle. It's a constant juggle. And I think, you have moments where you can get burned out, and, you just sometimes have to take a step back. But I think time management really helps, and, having a schedule and trying to stick to that schedule as much as you can really helps. So I think, I definitely think that I have been able to um, sort of, better my skills in time management. So that is one thing that probably I am probably getting better at day to day. Social media is probably one of the most important things for my business personally, and I think for a lot of other brands and businesses as well. I think social media has changed um, the playing field for so many businesses. It has allowed businesses to thrive and also keep a very minimal budget, in terms of marketing and advertising. Personally, for my brand and for my business, social media has played an enormous role, and I think it's two primary things. One is driving sales, and two is also networking. And I think obviously those two go both hand in hand. But yeah, social media is definitely a very useful tool. It's constantly changing, and you have to learn how to sort of adapt and change with it. Um, and honestly, I think the social media, like, the thing that I've taken away from social media is the power of networking and creating relationships with other South Asian females here in the US and abroad. And also, just sharing my own personal story and journey with everybody. Um, your platform becomes larger and larger, and as you network with other, people who are in line with those values and share that same belief in your brand, um, their followers and their audience can also learn about your brand, and tap into, and you're able to tap into their, into their audience as well. So it's a very powerful marketing tool. It's a powerful networking tool, and it's a powerful, sales tool. We've acquired so many customers just through social media, in terms of, putting content out there and other people seeing it and then wanting to, purchase something from our brand. So it's it's again, it's a great tool. It can be very overwhelming at times, but you just kind of have to learn which platforms that are best for your brand, that can help help it succeed. Um, and but social media has its ugly side as well, and I think but I think that's to everything. There's a good and then there's a bad as well. So you just have to kind of understand and navigate it through the way that is most useful to your business or to your brand. Yeah, I think there's a lot of struggles. I think entrepreneurship brings, in general. Um, Personally, for me, I think it's been growing up in a sort of multicultural sort of society. My parents are immigrants from India, but I was born and raised here in the States. And, it growing up, from my perspective, I was exposed to two different cultures, which is also a very beautiful thing, but it can be also a very challenging thing. On one side, I had, the beautiful influence of, Indian culture and heritage, but on the other side, I was growing up in, American society and, exposed to Western culture. And I think for a lot of us first generation, Indian Americans here, it was kind of difficult and sometimes a struggle, to kind of balance those two worlds. Um, so that was just a personal struggle that in hindsight I look back at, and we didn't have a lot of the social media channels to kind of talk about these issues and things like that, but again, from that struggle, turned into my business, which is Bhav, and it's a very good representation of sort of embracing those two cultures together. That's what a lot of the pieces kind of represent, is this fusion of Western and Indian culture. Um, so from struggles you can create beautiful things, and that's a you know from those struggles, I think that's what Bob has sort of evolved into. In terms of entrepreneurship struggles, that's day to day, and I think that's something that as an entrepreneur you have to kind of embrace and take on. You have to understand that there's going to be challenges throughout. There's going to be problems coming up in terms of business day-to-day stuff, or with the climate changes, take for COVID, for instance. A lot of businesses had to pivot and try to figure out new ways to adapt to the new to the world events. So I think you have to kind of go into entrepreneurship with that mindset of always trying to evolve and embracing those challenges, because if you don't, you're not going to grow and you're not going to kind of succeed in the race. So yeah, so those are some of the challenges that I have experienced, and um, you kind of have to develop a kind of a thick skin in the end of the day, because it's not easy. It's definitely not easy, and you have to, the ones I think that kind of pour their heart, and soul into it are the ones that will do well in the end. For women who are thinking about entrepreneurship, or who have an idea, or who want to do something different in life, my advice is go for it. The sky's the limit, really, and I think we all have a lot of, personal and internal fears of failure. And failure can be the biggest driving force for success. And I think, a lot of people let that fear sort of overtake them and, hinder them from, following their dreams, or, their passion in life, because they're always worried about what people are going to say, or, the hundreds of other thoughts that come into your mind, sort of negative thoughts that talk you out of it. But I think it just has to come from within. If you believe in a product, if you believe in an idea, um, you know, go with it. Just take a chance, take a risk, because that's what entrepreneurship is all about. Really, it's about taking risk and sort of kind of believing in your gut. And it might not work out the way that you wanted to, but if you really believe in it, then you'll kind of adapt to it and you'll find a way to make it work. Um, so yeah, again, but also know that, it's a challenge, and it's, you know, there's going to be struggles in the process. And, you have to kind of embrace that, but, yeah, I just, I truly believe, and just make sure that you have a really strong support system as well. That's really important, because entrepreneurship can be a very lonely place sometimes. Sometimes there's a lot of doubt that sets in and stuff. But if you really have a solid support system that believes in you and your ideas, that can also be helpful as well. So that would be my advice.